I'm alive! And sexy! Well, alive anyway. I bet you've all been wondering where I've been. And if not, well, too bad. I'm going to tell you anyway. I'm returning from perhaps the longest hiatus I've ever been on since I started this channel. That's 7 weeks. My main reason for going so long without making a new video is the workload I had during the first half of this past semester of college. Let me tell you, it was seriously kicking my ass. I was struggling to keep up, it was affecting some of my grades, and it even sent me so far behind in one class that, well, eventually I just realized I couldn't do it all. It was just too much to handle at one time. And so I ended up dropping the whole class because of that. And you know what? I regret nothing. It has made everything so much easier. Is that personal information? Probably, but I feel you all deserve an explanation, and I have no shame in admitting to it. Another reason why I went so long without making new videos is that this isn't quite as fresh to me as it was back when I started in fall of 2010. And I just decided I really needed a break from it to concentrate on other things for a while. These are things that are important to me and I really felt deserved a lot of focus, and I really wanted to put the effort and time into them because I feel that they were really worthwhile. Even so, everybody has to balance out their priorities, and now I am finally ready to get back on here and start making videos again. And so, I sincerely apologize for taking so long to come out with a new video because I don't want to disappoint all you loyal fans out there. And I will be doing my best to get my videos out more regularly, time permitting, you know, whenever it's convenient, because I'm kind of a busy guy. So, now that we've gotten all that out of the way, it's time for the fun stuff. As you're probably aware, it's been a long time since I've actually done a new movie review. Well, there are actually a few movies which I originally meant to review, but for one reason or another had to keep delaying, and eventually I just felt they were no longer relevant because it had been so long since they came out. So, I'm going to talk a little bit about those now. These aren't going to be like the usual reviews, I'm just going to express my thoughts briefly on each one of them. The first of which being The Woman in Black, starring Daniel Radcliffe in his first film since Harry Potter ended. Yeah, that came out a while back. But nevertheless, I still have a lot to say about it. It's pretty much your classic ghost story, what with the haunted house and the ghost itself and possessions and stuff. So, I'm not really gonna go into the story. Let me just say what I liked and what I didn't like. First off, this movie had a good amount of jump scares. However, unlike most films where they just automatically launch it at you with a big boom with the music, this one gives you just enough time to register what you're seeing, and then wham! Now that's the way to make people jump, and it did. Another thing I liked was this 10 to 15 minute segment in which there was little to no dialogue. It was just Radcliffe, like, walking around the house and freaky things starting to happen. And you know what? It was actually really effective. There were even subtle things like the camera focusing on dolls in the house, and it looked like they were almost alive. It was like they were watching Radcliffe, even though they weren't moving or anything. As for Radcliffe himself, well, he's no stranger to being the leading man. This one really solely focuses on him. Overall, I'd say he did a very nice job, especially considering that this is a totally different thing from what I'm used to seeing him in. One thing that did take some getting used to was the fact that he had a son in this. Yeah, that's right. And the son is 4 years old. And Daniel Radcliffe himself is 22, so it's a bit weird at first, but I guess he's supposed to be in his mid-20s as the character, and you know what, he does look older in this one, so I guess I can kind of buy into it. Another character that really left an impression on me was Mrs. Davies. She's only in 2 scenes, but she's very intimidating at times, and she's really tall. Seriously, the actress is 6'1", and Daniel Radcliffe being around 5'8" or so, yeah, that's gonna be a bit awkward. Mrs. Davies is basically haunted by the loss of her son, because the way it goes is every time someone actually enters that house, a child dies. Scary thought, although it is kind of a slow build-up, we don't really see a lot during the first act, but again, it's build-up, because the second and third act, they deliver. Granted, the opening scene is a bit confusing. I'm not really spoiling anything here, but it just shows these 3 little girls in the house just playing with some toys, and then for seemingly no reason at all, they get up and walk right out the window. And then we suddenly hear this woman shouting, "Oh, my babies!" So what, were they possessed or something? It's never explained. Another thing is that no matter what Radcliffe seems to be doing, the townspeople keep ostracizing him. In one scene, he even goes into a burning building to save a little girl, and he still gets no respect. It's like just because he keeps going into that house that he's suddenly become the angel of death. So yeah, there are a lot of unlikable characters, but one character I did like was Mr. Davies, the husband of Mrs. Davies. Duh. He was played by Ciarán Hinds, who some of you may remember as Aberforth, the brother of Dumbledore in the final film in the Harry Potter series, The Deathly Hallows Part 2. He seems to be the only sane person in the town who truly sympathizes with Radcliffe, and for that I really enjoyed him, because he's basically the second most prominent character in the film, and it really benefits from his presence. Got a little tongue-tied there. Now the last thing about the film which I wanted to bring up would appropriately be the ending, which is rather bittersweet. Some people might hate it, others might think it's more of a happy ending. How can this be? Well, you really need to see it to find out, because I don't want to spoil it for anybody. So that about sums up everything I wanted to say about the film in a nutshell, and it was a very effective piece altogether, even though it has like no language, sex, or nudity, and very little violence. Granted, one little girl does puke up some blood, but you only see that for a few seconds. So I guess this is one of those rare cases where a PG-13 horror film actually turns out to be good. How about that? Now, it comes in at an hour and 35 minutes, so that's an appropriate time, and it's actually based on a book and a play. So I would give it overall an 8 out of 10. Excellent. So that brings me to the second film I wanted to talk about, which is Project X. This is perhaps the first comedy ever to be shot from a first-person documentary-style perspective. This movie centers on 3 high school students, Thomas, Costa, and JB, who are throwing a birthday party for Thomas in order to make a name for themselves. I use the air quotes around high school because, honestly, most of the people in this would never pass for high school students. Suffice to say, before long, things get way out of control. Oh sure, things are fine at first because they just got people from school going, but eventually the whole thing swells to like over 1,000 people. And some of the stuff they do is just insane. I mean, they tie the guy's dog up to a bunch of balloons so he'll float. One guy gets tasered in the neck, another guy ends up bringing a flamethrower and starts torching the thing all over the neighborhood. I'm not sure how to respond to that. And then there are the characters themselves, like Thomas, who is basically just an average guy, Costa, who's a complete douchebag, worst friend in history, and JB, who everybody makes fun of for being overweight. And some of the jokes which go along with that are pretty predictable. I mean, there's this one scene where he's running on a treadmill and Costa starts speeding the thing up so he'll fall off. JB, what are you doing? I'm getting in shape for the party. Dude, the party's in 3 hours. It's okay, it's mostly water weight. But stereotypical characters and jokes aside, nothing like this would ever be able to fly in real life. And would it really be worth it? I mean, come on, this guy's life is going to be destroyed. He's going to become a hero at school, but everything he knows, it's over. It's all going to change. Oh, and another thing that's unrealistic, the fact that these guys are all supposed to be in high school. Honestly, I think JB is the only one who actually looks like he's in high school. Oh, and don't even get me started on Costa. The guy looks like he's at least in his mid-20s. Can't really fault him for his acting ability, though, because he actually plays the perfect douche. So I have to say, going to this, I did not have high expectations. In fact, I didn't think I would really enjoy it. The only reason I really ended up going was because my friend wanted to see it and I hadn't seen him in a while. But you know what? It actually left a really big impression on me. I mean, never before have I seen a film quite like this. And it actually turned out to be one of the most entertaining films I've seen in a long time. I think it goes without saying that this film is rated R for basically everything, and it comes in at a runtime of 1 hour 28 minutes. As for my rating, well, I really couldn't decide on one, because my feelings on it are really conflicted. Nevertheless, I felt pretty positively about it. Now, the last movie I saw was John Carter, but this video is already running pretty long, so I'll save that for another time. Just let me assure you that I have a lot of things planned for the future, like my next episode of Ask Jay, which I've gotten a lot of good questions for, finishing my film shoot documentary, plenty more reviews, and just a whole lot of stuff, so you can look forward to that. Anyway, I gotta go now. Peace.